This for everybody. So happy Friday. Hey, this is Drew DeMaree. I am actually a coach in the Richmond, DC, Maryland market. And today we're going to talk about niche down for sales to go up. And so I have been a real estate agent for 20 years, and I often see some really big rock star agents really do this well. So we're going to go over some strategies of how to niche down. Um, and how to be more effective in our business. So, those of you that may not know who I am a realtor for 20 years. I'm an entrepreneur. I have multiple businesses, and also I'm a coach. I'm going actually into my 10th year uh, in October. So I'll be 10 years as a coach. I'm an independent coach and trainer for many different brokerages and different organizations. I'm in 5 different states here in the U.S., and then I also coach in Canada. So one of the things that we're going to go through today is how to niche down in any market. So I have people that are watching this from all different states. So we're going to give you some specific examples of niche down markets, but there's so many out there. So try to take some of the content and apply it to something in your neck of the woods in your geographic area. Okay. So the first thing is I just want to define what the niche is, right? A niche market is serves a specific group of humans, right? It gives them some solutions to their problems. So we'll go through that at a higher rate. And then it's more of a targeted approach rather than, if we're honest, buyers and sellers. That's not a niche market, right? Buyers and sellers in real estate, we need both of them, but that's not a specific targeted group, right? So we'll go specifics into that. So first thing I want us to think about, just to kind of put it in frame of reference, do our customers know what you sell, right? So I thought of some iconic like restaurants and brands that I participate in, and I want us to just go through them real quick, rapid fire, um, to kind of set the pace, right? So, first thing, when we look at this iconic Waffle House that's been around forever, what is the one thing that this establishment sells, right? They don't sell 65 different things, right? They're well known for waffles, right? Pretty self explanatory. Same with Starbucks, right? What are they known for most historically? Coffee, right? Cookout, hamburgers. You get the point. Chick-fil-A, chicken sandwich, right? They don't sell burgers, right? Domino's, they sell pizza. So one of the things I want us to think about is if we are a real estate agent in the market, especially with the market changing and transitioning, are you able to identify to your customer what you're selling? Because if you're going out in the marketplace and saying the old cliche kind of scripting was like buy, sell, or invest in real estate, that's not a niche market. And that's honestly not memorable. That's honestly not going to make you stand out in any market, let alone the market that we are in changing right now, right? Oh, Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah, right? So those are some things I just want you to think about as we go into this conversation of like, how do you be more intentional? How do you have a written plan about going into what your niche would be, right? Kind of think of it in another sense, right? So doctors, right? They're specialists, right? They don't, a doctor, a brain surgeon isn't going to be the same as an anesthesiologist, right? A lawyer, when you're going through a divorce, is completely different experience and different skill set than a bankruptcy attorney, right? Same with cars. If you're going to buy a new car, brand new, fresh off the lot, you already have the idea of what type of brand of car that you're going to purchase, such as a Mercedes or a Ford, right? And you're going to go to that dealership because they specialize in that. So sometimes when I see agents really trying to, just do this broad stroke approach where they're like trying to find every buyer and every seller possible, and they're frustrated with where their business is, it's because you're taking this kind of spaghetti on the wall, like throw it on the wall and hope it sticks approach, rather than being intentional and have a physical plan on how do we attract people that we want to work with, right? So I want to go through real quick before we actually go into some examples of the niche markets. But the 5 reasons why a niche market really works. So I don't know why this is being, my internet was being crazy, so now my graphics are being crazy, but that's okay. You won't see the the pretty graphics that are on there. But what sets you apart from your competition to your customers, right? So the funny thing is, last night we were long day of work, a lot of things going on, and the first things that me and my partner said to us is like, "What are you feeling like?" Right? So we were like, you know what? We were personally feeling like some chicken wings, right? So then you break down, you're like, okay, where is the best place to have chicken wings, right? And why do I bring that up? Because really, all the consumers are doing in their head is what do I need, and where do I get it, right? So think of it like, again, what you're in the mood for. Just like in real estate, if I'm a first-time home buyer, if I'm a senior, or if I'm an investor, or if I want to buy a new construction house, it's just like deciding what's for dinner, right? If they're going to buy new construction, that's their goal. They don't want a resale. They don't want a flip. They don't want an investment property. They want to buy new construction. That's what they're feeling like for dinner, right? Then they're going to go and try to find the food, or they're going to try to find the object that they're looking for, which is new construction, right? So they're going to start to either look for properties that are new construction, right? We know they go into Zillow or they go onto property sites, right? Or they're going to try to find an agent that specializes in new construction. That's exactly how, when I'm using this example, that's exactly how we're doing when we make a decision to eat something for dinner, right? And that's how all of our consumer brains are wired, right? So I want you to think about, we got to match what the behavior and the mindset of our customers are. And instead, what we're doing is we're just going out there, kind of spreading it in broad strokes, right? So one thing I want you to think about is you've got to make one of the first things out, there's five of them. One of the first things I want you to think about is that we actually have to, this allows you to create marketing content easier, right? So if I know that my market, let's say, is an equestrian market, right? So I want to go after people that love horses, that love farm, that love land, that want to have, more elbow room. So they have 3, 5, 10, 15 acres, right? Then I know that now it's going to make my job easier to create content, because all I'm going to be talking about, or the majority of my time, effort, and energy, with whether it's print, digital, or presentations, it's going to be all about that lifestyle, right? So one thing I want us to make sure that when you're creating that marketing content, we got to make sure we're passionate about it, right? So if you don't love horses and that's not your gig, that's not your vibe, then you're not going to be passionate about it. The consumer's going to feel that, right? Other thing is, you got to know the language that your audience needs to hear, right? So if I am in the equestrian market, or if I am in the investor market, right, there's certain words or certain language or certain vocabulary that they like to use. The slang words, the technical words going into that niche market, right? So make sure you're knowing what that language is, because you're going to need to be using that in all forms of your marketing content, right? Then you're going to need to find targeted groups to market to, right? The beautiful thing about social media and a lot of internet platforms is that you can go really niche and really specific, right? So you're Googling where, again, let's say you're in a beach community, right? So if that that's kind of your niche market, and you're talking that language, and you're passionate about maybe that beach or resort market, where do you find those people? Where are you finding those groups to hang out with? Where are you finding those markets? So I want you to start to expand your ideas of how to find these humans. And then you got to also make sure your skills and your experience match up with that group, right? So as you're going into this niche market and you have some sales behind that, you need to obviously promote that results, right? You got to match that behavior, because they're going to see, yeah, the marketing's there, but are the results there, right? So that's number one. Number two, reasons why we should go into a niche market is, actually, you can dominate search engines. We're going to show you in a second here about that. But the cool thing is that if I'm going to be in a specific niche market, I need to go, in my opinion, you need to actually dominate the search engines too. And all those things we talked about before still apply, but I'm gonna explain in my domain names and on my websites why I'm so passionate, right? We're gonna continue to use all the keywords to make sure that language is in there, right? To make sure so the cool thing is that if I know we'll go into this. Maybe I'm servicing the Latino community, right? So I'm going to obviously use language and wording and vocabulary that's going to connect with that client base. So I want you to realize that number two, you can actually dominate search engines. You can buy domain names that point to your website that you're already connected to. I don't know why this is driving me crazy, but I cannot see the graphics for nothing here. So let me just try to fix my internet situation. Because it's all the graphics are not showing up. It's driving me crazy. All right, let's see if this helped. It did. I don't know what was happening with my internet before we hopped on here. Um, so number two was making creating content, your marketing easier. So I think a lot of times when I coach people, they're like, I don't know what to post on social media. I don't want to post on Instagram, Facebook, right? So that's something that now makes it a little easier, right? Search engines, we talked about that. So I literally Googled equestrian, right? So this is an example of literally when I'm buying a niche market domain, I can do equestrian, I can do farms, right? And then it's connected to all these subset websites. The cool thing is that if you're in these markets, you can either pay to be on these websites. And the cool thing is that those people then kind of queue it out based on your zip code or your area, right? So the cool thing about being in a niche market is you can either dominate through the search engines yourself, or you could hook your caboose, your train to a large domain that's already in existence, such as an equestrian website, okay? Number four, you can niche down marketing because it becomes your like bat signal, right? So you're the go-to equestrian person in your market, right? Or you're the go-to person for investors, right? So the cool thing is that as you start to build your brand and build consistently in that niche, you can market to your local community, yes, but you also can market to your database, out-of-state real estate partners, aka your referral partners, and you can also market to certain vendors that are in your niche markets. So I want you to realize that going into this niche space gives you a lot of leverage of your time, right? And then there's the last thing, it's all about the money, right? So there's a difference between a specialist and a generalist, right? So the niche market really generally garners you a higher income, right? So think about a general practitioner. Maybe you fell down the stairs, you tripped and fell, right? So you go to your general practitioner, they do some x-rays and they realize, oh my gosh, you have broken your ankle or your foot, right? Now they're going to recommend or refer you to a specialist, right? So now you're going to go to a surgeon that specializes in broken bones, right? Who do you think makes more money, right? The general practitioner that's literally going to diagnose a stomach ache to a fracture, or a surgeon that specializes in ankle and knee and fractures and such, right? We know that that specialist makes more money, right? The customer wants an expert. They want to have confidence that you're a specialist in what they need, right? You're not a generalist. You don't just help everyone buy and sell, right? You're very specific. I'm in the beach niche market, or I'm in the vestor market, right? So we got to realize that they are going to also recognize that you are worth more than the generic generalist of a real estate agent, right? And then once you show value, they're gonna be willing to pay more, or at least market value, right? And I know commissions are coming up a lot with the changes in a lot of the NAR settlements, right? So I wanted to spend a majority of our time talking about niche markets on some specific examples. This is just to get your kind of the juices flowing, your ideas flowing. The last part we'll be talking about is specific marketing strategies to kind of amp down and to like maximize these niche markets. But the first thing I wanted you guys to be aware of is there's a cool website, and I'm using some of these just for graphics, but there's a cool website called Elevated Agent. Elevated Agent's a third-party company, and basically they create Canva presentations. So they have presentations, they've got graphics for social media, and you can download them for like 12 bucks, 15 bucks, 20 bucks. And then the cool thing is it goes automatically into your Canva account. You can customize it with your logo, your company brand, all that good stuff. But the interesting thing is while I was on their website, it actually has tons of niche down markets, right? So really specific. So maybe I want to be specific with like seniors, right? So I literally go into Elevated Agent, which I'll show you, and I type senior market, and they have already have checklists. They already have resource and download guides. So the cool thing is that if you're going into a niche market fresh, not done before, and you're intimidated by creating all the marketing and all the ideas that you need to come up with. The great thing is the way the world works, agents have created it before. So like that's something. So the first one I want to talk about is new construction. And you can see the graphic that I added here is they have a cool new construction guidebook when they have checklists and they have things you can add to your monthly email campaigns through your database to embed in that, right? So if you're going to go into the niche new construction market, you got to know all the local communities, right? So you got to be the expert. And when I'm seeing a new construction expert on my social media feed, I'm seeing like every Friday featured community of the week, right? And I'm going to be touring the neighborhoods. I'm going to be touring model homes. I'm going to be highlighting different builders. I'm going to be highlighting different um, just literal materials inside the house, granite, LVP, the latest trends, right? So make sure that if you're in that niche market, that you're completely immersing the consumer in that experience. The cool thing is that if you're breaking out your marketing plan and your prospecting plan, there's so much content that you can create digitally and in print. Then let's talk about just lifestyle niches in general, right? So I briefly talked about equestrian and farms, right? Country clubs, luxury properties, right? We know that market, but what does the luxury market look like, right? Do you have your website that's tailored to, maybe you have multiple landing pages on your website, right? Maybe you have a luxury landing page where it's all about what you do to elevate your listings from a standard listing to a luxury listing, right? And then you've got to make sure you've got to match that lifestyle with all of your content, right? So maybe your sign looks a little bit different, the for sale sign. Maybe your business card physically looks a little different, right, than the standard business card that we see, right? So if you're going to elevate that lifestyle, if you're going to elevate that niche, it's got to match your aesthetics and it's got to match what the consumer wants to see in that lifestyle, right? And maybe lifestyle is not just about houses, right? Lifestyle is about cars and fashion, right? So maybe you're not flooding just your marketing approach to just houses. You're talking about all the things that lifestyle would include, all the things that would be important to you, right? Or important to that consumer. Next to investors, and there's investors have many layers to it, right? So I have a particular client that, yes, she works with investors, but she specifically specializes in Airbnb purchases and management, right? So she knows that most of her investors are going to buy and hold property for short-term rentals using Airbnbs. She personally has, I think, 7 properties herself. So a lot of the content that she's creating is just giving them an inside look at what it takes to be an Airbnb host, right? Some of the drama behind when customers come into her Airbnb, right? So she's showing what that life looks like, right? She's also breaking down maybe the cash flow of those, right? So she's breaking that down. You'll also see in this example, again, using Elevated Agent, that they're breaking down the rental process in general. So maybe it's not Airbnb, it's a hold property, right? So it's a traditional real estate property management, right? So it's calculating rental income. It's should I actually build? What are the causes or the side effects of owning more than 5 properties? What's the tax benefits, right? Different things like that, right? So I think know all the rules and regulations for Airbnbs, rentals. Again, if you have a connection yourself, if you're an investor, if you're flipping properties, if you're holding properties, telling your story is going to help connect the two. But having all of those niche pieces together so you can kind of come off truly as an expert. Downsizing seniors, we all know that the baby boomers, that generation is looking to downsize, but there's a lot of anxiety and stress connected with that, right? So we know in that demographic, in that niche market, that those folks most likely have been in their house 25, 30 years, and they've got clutter and they've got hoarding and they've got updates they need to do. And right, and the stress of getting that on the market, and then where are they going to go? And we all know prices have increased, right? So how they have to justify or rationalize selling their 67-year-old house and now buying something newer at almost probably even twice the price, right? So the cool thing is if you're focusing on downsizing seniors, you have that passion for that, right? You understand the stress, the anxiety, and also some of the resources that they need. Maybe they physically need moving services. Maybe they need decluttering. Maybe they need a concierge service so they don't feel overwhelmed where they have to hire the painter and they don't have to hire the power washer. Maybe you create a concierge service that focuses on downsizing seniors. So hopefully you're getting some inspiration on how you can kind of niche down, but to rise up and make more sales. I personally, as a realtor for 20 years, I think a niche market is sellers, right? So if I want to be the calling card for, I am the listing machine, right? So I know the neighborhoods in and out. I know the pricing. I know the schools that are connected to these listings. I'm an expert with that. So if I'm looking on your social media feed, I'm not really seeing things that are connected to buyers. I'm not really seeing interest rate stuff. I'm not seeing anything. What I'm seeing is ways to improve your curb appeal, ways to make it easier for you to transition from one house to another, right? And I'll tell you right now, the last year, if not the 2 years, there's a lot of pent up seller, what we call trade up sellers, right? So you and I know that there's a seller in their house right now. It's not a great house for them for whatever reason. It's older or it's smaller or it's too big, and they're on the fence. They don't want to sell because they can't find something else, right? Or they have a 2.5 or 3% interest rate, and they know they're going to have to lock into a 6% interest rate, right? So we know that if we niche into a seller's market and we go in to focus specifically on sellers, that trade up is going to give us 2 transactions, right? So we know they're going to sell the current home that's not now a good fit for them, and they're going to purchase another one. So yeah, you're going to get the extra byproduct of a purchase, but you're focusing on sellers, right? Seller seminars, seller content, seller data. Sellers do like, there's a lot of percentage points that are showing you that sellers like printed material, right? So you might have to invest in actual direct mail marketing with the seller versus the buyer market is more digital, like social media, Instagram. So if you're going into a niche market, you might actually focus on sellers. You might have to come up with some great downloads and some great things like that. Again, just giving examples through this elevated agent. I should be like a spokesperson for them. I should get some money. No, I'm just kidding. But it just gives you some visual examples of things you can create in your marketplace, in your local community that will literally scream that you're in that niche market. And then first-time home buyers. I think everyone dabbles in this. I think that if we're honest, that probably falls in our lap naturally just because there's such a high percentage of first-time home buyers in the marketplace in general. But what if your website, your landing page, your business cards, your direct mail, everything is connected to how that first-time home buyer experience is? And so just like we were talking about with the senior market, the seniors have the anxiety or the hesitation to pull the trigger and to make that purchase or make that transition. First-time home buyers have similar fears and anxiety connected to it, right? They still, with all the internet resources and all the YouTube channels, still first-time home buyers still don't understand their credit score and what needs to be done. They still don't understand what income or what money is going to be required, right? So if you're going to be in that niche first-time home buyer market, it's very important that you're consistently communicating all those things and giving them resources. So that could be a gold mine if you do it right. Again, it's the calling card. What I want to spend some time with is something what we call relatable niches, right? So it is very common when you're meeting a stranger that if you find something that's relatable to you and them, you can kind of hit it off, so to speak, right? So if you have small kids and you see they have small kids, right? There's a relatability and connection to them, right? Just a natural they understand what you're going through, and I understand what you're experiencing as well, right? So really, when we're going into a real estate niche that's relatable, is what are we experiencing on earth as a human ourselves, and how can we relate to the actual same thing, right? So here's some examples of one, and I'm going to give you some data points, some websites, and some resources, because these are markets that are super niche, but are super successful for agents that really want to have a relatable market, right? So maybe I am a Latino myself, which I'm not, but maybe I want to serve that customer, right? So I met a rock star real estate agent the other day in a training, and she was Latino, and we kind of went through just the struggles of what the Latino customer goes through, right? So, do they have the legal documentation to purchase, right? They have a fear or frustration of being taken advantage of because they're bilingual, so maybe there's some lost in translation, right? So, if you're a Latino real estate agent yourself and you're relating to that Latino customer, there's a sense of trust and connection, right? And so you can see the screen of several of them. We're not going to go through all of them. I highlighted just the top four. But if you're a veteran, or if you've been in the military and you've moved 4, 5, 6 times, the stress and the process that you had to go through to find new housing in a new town, in a new state, and things like that. So you got to, again, I think relatability can't be faked, right? If you've experienced any of this, your customer will understand that you kind of feel that. So the first one I want to talk about was the actual Hispanic community. So if we're going to niche down in a relatable market, and we're like, is there enough, honestly, people wanting to buy or sell in this market to thrive, have my business grow, right? Well, the first thing, this is stats um, uh, from, and actually, it's a Hispanic association, and it's literally showing you that it is the fastest growing segment of the market. So if I'm a Latino real estate agent right now, I want to continue to help grow and build that base, right? So when I was doing research on this, clicked on this, there's literally an association for Hispanic ownership, and they do studies and they do research and they tell you all kinds of things demographically. These are graphics that you could create or recreate. There's downloads through their website. If you become a member of their association, they send you monthly resources. So this is stuff, if I'm niching in this market, I'm going to be educating the consumer through social media and print media and all the other resources of what's available, right? The crazy thing is, as I read this report, is that they're they're more likely to purchase than they are to rent. They want to have home ownership. They are designed, and honestly, it's just part of their culture to do so, right? So knowing that data and to be able to communicate that in an authentic way is going to allow you to niche down. All right. This one is important too, because this one is all about African American purchase, right? So unfortunately, if you're looking at the average home purchaser, 65% of them, right? Only 44% are home ownership by African American, right? So there's obviously a huge gap from the average versus the norm, right? And that's continuing to educate them, continuing to figure out how we can help them overcome their challenges in that community as well. So again, it's identifying in a relatable way that you can help them, right? LGBTQ, this is again another association, the NAGLREP, big acronym, but they literally are, again, there's so much income on the renter side of that community, right? There's so many renters that want to purchase, but look at that statistic. 46% of LGBT renters fear discrimination in the home buying process, right? So if you are relatable to them, if you feel like you can connect with them and you can show that value to them, that you are trustworthy, that you understand their community, and you're going to help them, not not basically exposing them to something that maybe the traditional realtor wouldn't do. Does that make sense? So just looking at that. And then this is another association and a designation, right? So if you feel like that's important to you, this is, and I'll send you guys all these links, but these are great ways to just have that relatable niche and do it because you have passion connected to that group or segment of the community, right? And then the last one I thought I wanted to highlight, just to give you an example, single females, the second largest rate of home ownership. A connected, obviously the highest rate probably would 59% is married couples, but strong single females are purchasing homes at a record level, right? So maybe you are a single female and maybe you purchased your home, right? And you're going to give that example and that story and share your passion for home ownership as a single female, right? And so maybe that's a niche market that you can go after because it's relatable. So I'm just giving you a sprinkle and a handful of things, but I want you to really go is am I going to go through new construction or seniors or investors, or am I going to go even deeper into relatable niche markets that we talked about today? Okay. So then I want to kind of end with this final kind of segment of how do we market to our niche, right? So really niche market should be obvious in all of your marketing, right? So if I am a vet myself, if I'm in the military, if I experience that and I want to be a niche market in that segment, I want to see it everywhere, right? So I want to see the designation. I want to see your logo and the colors to match all that. I want everything from your website to your social media to your business card, everything in between that screams that you're a veteran and that you want to help the military community purchase or sell homes in your local area, right? So I think one of the things I would do is go back through your marketing, go back through your print and digital and social media spaces and say, is my niche market obvious, right? If you were a complete stranger and went on my website or you went on my Instagram, would you know that I am servicing that community? Would you know that? And if the answer is no, then that's the beginning of where you got to start. You got to build up. And again, remember that language. Remember, it has to be obvious. It also has to be consistently seen, right? So just changing your website and just adding a logo to your business card isn't going to be enough, right? So maybe you're writing a blog or a vlog. Maybe you're doing a newsletter. Maybe you're constantly pulling data or reports or research or stories about why this niche market is important to the community, right? So make sure you're being consistent and you're being a resource for them at all times. Because again, not everyone's always in the market to purchase. We always know that there's a number of humans that are out of the real estate market. There's a data point of in the US population, there's about 430 million of us in the United States right now. But NAR predicts that in 2024, only 5 million of us are going to purchase, right? So there's 425 million people that do not want to buy a house, don't want to list with you, don't want to buy, right? There's 5 million that are raising their hand that say, yes, I want to purchase or I want to sell my house this year, 2024, right? So in order for you to be consistent, you have to be obvious as well. Also, lead with your story, right? So if you have aging seniors, right? If your parents are downsizing and you had maybe they had a horrible experience, you want to relate to that, right? Or if you are a downsizer yourself, maybe your children are outside the house now and you were downsizing, you just recently downsized yourself, right? So every time you can tell a story, it's always going to be more effective than data. Widely important, right? So every time that you sell a property, maybe it's a equestrian property or maybe it's an investor property, right? Make sure you're telling the story behind the sale. I think so many times we see the sold in 3 days or sold at top price. That's not what people are going to remember, right? They're going to relate to the story behind it, right? Connected to that. And then always connect that story with the hope and the reality that home ownership is attainable. Some of these markets, like seniors, first-time home buyers, they feel hopeless right now. They feel like in the market that we're in, that they're not able to find the property for them, right? And we know that with hard work and your skills and your ability to kind of find properties and negotiate for them, it is obtainable. It just requires some effort, some grit, and some energy to get that done, right? So when I'm looking at my marketing, I want to use this almost like a checklist. So there's three questions that I want you to think about because you might be like, all right, I'm jazzed up. I'm ready to do this niche thing. Is I want you to just take these questions and write your answers down, right? What niche can I relate to, right? So if I'm not a single female, because I'm not, I don't know that I can relate to that market, right? So I've got to make sure that in my niche market, I can relate to that community, right? What local resource can I consistently show up at, right? So is there organizations, nonprofit organizations, Facebook groups, meetup groups that are connected to that? I think the investor community is recently doing a great job, is where they're literally meeting up with each other. The wholesalers are meeting up together and their agents are meeting up together, and they're touring flip properties, and they're showing you you know, property management, like the hold properties and what they're doing and what the cash flow looks like, and hard money lending and all that stuff. I love that because what it is it's allowing you to really connect with all those resources and things like that. Also, make sure you're thinking large and small when you're niching down. What are the national resources? So we mentioned kind of in the presentation earlier, like, is there a physical designation that you can get? Is there a national connection or association, right? Veterans definitely have one. LGBTQ has one. Like Latino community has one, right? There's probably a niche market that has a national resource, and then go local. What association, what group, what people that do you need to continuously hang out with that are going to cross pollinate all of this niche marketing that you're going to do? And then you got to join that network. You got to be consistently showing up and contributing to it. All right. Well, I'm going to show you some specific marketing, but I want you to kind of, if you've never heard this acronym before, I want you to think about it, and you're going to realize you see it all the time in all different industries. So this is called MOFR, MOFIR, make offers for immediate response. So I'll tell you, probably the most iconic one, probably 3-4 years ago, Domino's did it, right? So it basically was talking about delivery of their pizzas. If they don't deliver your pizza to you within 30 minutes, the pizza would be free. Um, Ironically, they stopped doing that because they literally had drivers getting in accidents because they were in such a rush. But the reason why I bring it up is because that's a make offers for immediate response. So what is a MOFR, right? So a MOFR is a marketing strategy that has a programmer service, and I'd put that in quotes for a reason, that provides a solution to your problem, right? And it allows the consumer to kind of not have that hesitation anymore, right? So I think probably the most traditional one I've seen in real estate would probably be like, if your home doesn't sell, we'll buy the property, right? You may have seen that on billboards or name writers on top of signs. But basically, if it's not sold, there's a guarantee to purchase, right? There's obviously fine print, there's terms and conditions. It probably isn't 95, 98% of a win-win for everybody to do that. But what it does, that MOFR allows that consumer to start to go, oh, maybe that is a solution to my problem. So I thought, okay, let me just try to find some. So what I did was literally Google certain niche markets. So the first one I'm going to click on and show you, and I literally did this yesterday. I was like, what would be downsizing in my area? So I literally Googled downsizing real estate agents, right? So again, using those domain names, using a key search of words, the language that we know that the niche market's going to do. And I came upon this website of a realtor. And I don't know this realtor from Adam or Eve. But what I do know is that there's MOFRs in their website everywhere. First of all, downsizing VA is their website domain, right? So they spend some time, money, effort on having a domain with that. A lot of the language in here is specific language that says virtual downsizing consultation, decluttering services, moving plan and management service, estate management, right? They're starting to use words that would relate to someone that's downsizing, maybe a senior downsizer, right? And then when you look at it, they have specifics on it, right? How to get your house organized, decluttering, right? Because they know the stress that a senior person that is downsizing is going through. They also then have a whole section on repairs. They probably know through their experience that that house probably hasn't had a lick of paint or upgrades since those people purchased that house 30, 40 years ago, right? Estate sales, lots of stuff, got to get rid of it. Maybe they're overwhelmed, right? So what they've done, and this example of a mofer, is they're providing a solution to this person's problem, right? So if I'm a senior and I'm marketed to this particular organization or company, I know that they have resources for me and they have a language that I can understand and they have a solution to the problem. So that's an example of one mofer. Then I was clicking on something else. I was like, all right, let's talk about like if I'm bilingual, again, if I'm serving the Spanish community. So this is an example of a landing page on one of these agents' websites, bilingual agent services, right? And so they literally go through the steps in the process of how they can help that consumer with that niche market, right? So if I'm in the Latino community and I see the website that is literally speaking my language, literally connecting me with resources that I'm going to feel secure and happy with, that I'm more likely to choose that agent than a generalist in the market. And then another one, this one actually a national website, but I thought it had some great ideas. This is, again, I just Googled gay real estate agents in the area. Number one is you can hook your caboose to this, right? So I'm sure this is a paid service that you can add. When you put your city in there, it'll send a directory directly to your zip code, your area. Obviously, it shows multiple brokerage brands. But one of the cool things is, as the mofer, it's giving resources, right? So there's tons of resources, attorneys, home inspectors. You're seeing a lot of specific language that are going to be used to help this person relate to that mofer, right? So as you make a decision on what your niche market is, as you figure out the language and the marketing you're going to do, one of the things I definitely make sure you're going to do is you need to create a program or service for it. Come up with a fun name. Everybody loves, I would say it's like a combo meal, right? So think of it like, I don't know, like a fast food restaurant. It's much easier to be like, I would like combo number one, number two, number three, right? So when you're creating these niche markets, create a package, a concierge, create a service for them so that they can see, wow, if I use this agent, number one, they're relatable to me. They have experience with the niche market that I'm in, and they now make it easier for me because there's a quote mofer, there's a program that I can follow, right? And it takes time to figure out what those resources are. And so the final thing I want to end with is now that you know what your niche market is, maybe you've identified your mofer, your special item of value, right? Something that's going to give you immediate response. You got to go back to the drawing board of what you've already created, right? So if you're a real estate agent that's 3 years, 5 years, 20 years in the business, you've got some content to review, right? So I would break it into three parts. I would review all of your print materials, right? Do I need to give my business card a facelift? Do I need to look at direct mail marketing a little bit more differently and more effectively? And is direct mail an effective use of my time and my money? Then I would go back through your listing or your buyer consultations, presentations, and make sure your mofer's in there, make sure that your niche is in there and the results are connected to that, right? And that would be really important. Maybe you have sold 5 or 6 homes to veterans, but you haven't niched down, right? So maybe you're going to go and ask them for a review, a Google review or a Zillow review. Maybe you already have one, right? Now you're going to pull it into your presentations and you're going to give an example of this is a veteran that I helped to move from Florida to Ohio, Ohio to Texas, right? So giving those, connecting the dots to those networks, right? So maybe you're going to have to join some associations. Maybe you're going to have to go local and national and get certified in certain things, such as senior move specialist. Maybe you're going to have to get a veteran designation, right, to be a real estate expert in that niche. But I want you to go into that. Maybe again, if you're in equestrian niche, maybe you're going to have to join some Facebook and some groups. Maybe you're going to actually have to go to some local events that have that community in your backyard. And the last thing is I want you to look at all the digital stuff. We know that 90% of buyers start their home search on the internet, right? So maybe you're going to have to purchase some domain names. Maybe you're going to have to update your website with a landing page, email signatures, social media groups, and the content, right? You get the picture. But what are you going to do to take this niche market so it's not broad strokes? Because we don't just help buyers and sellers in a niche market. When you're in a niche market, it's your calling card. It's like I said before, it's your bat signal. They know you, they like you, they remember you as the investor specialist, as the equestrian specialist, as the senior specialist. And that is a beautiful thing when it can work for you to generate more sales in the future. Okay. So I know that some of you, they're like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. I don't know what niche it is. I don't know what my MOFR is. I don't know how to begin to change all this marketing around. So that's what I specialize in, is kind of coming up with the plan and brainstorming with you. So one of the things I put together was just a simple session for that. So if you think that you want to go into the niche market and you feel like you need a little help with coming up with a plan, I'm happy to do so. If you scan this QR code, it'll take you to what we call a single session payment. And so it's 95 bucks. And what I can do is once we get that locked in, I'll schedule a day and a time for you. If you're in my local area, I'm happy to meet with you face to face. If we're not, if you're in different parts of the United States, which some of you are on this call, I can set up a Zoom call. But what we would do is set up a what we call a GPS. So we would take all of the ideas of a niche market and we would break it apart, and we'd start to discover ways that you can really maximize this niche at the highest level. Okay. And if you do think you need any type of coaching, obviously I'm a resource for you here. That's what I do full time. That's what I've done for the last 10 years. And as a professional coach, you can scan this QR code to do a free consultation, and we're happy to chat with you about that. But I think the name of the game when you're going into a niche market is be very specific. Think of all the details that you possibly can to squeeze all the juice out of this, right? Sometimes I think we try to do the all do everything approach. And sometimes when we niche down, we allow ourselves to maximize our exposure. And it seems a little counterproductive. It seems maybe counterintuitive, right? Why would I take such a broad base of business and strip it down to maybe just equestrian, or maybe just veterans, or maybe just investors? Well, I'll tell you, just like at the beginning of this slide presentation, that's what most of the consumers do, right? When I want chicken wings, I think Wingstop. When I think waffles, I think Waffle House. That's what any strong business is doing, is that they know what their calling card is, they know what their specialist is, and they choose not to be a generalist, they choose to be a specialist. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this free training. We always have different trainings. We usually have one free every month. So make sure you catch us on our next one going into October. I will send you all the resources, some of the website links, the elevated agent. I'll send you this presentation. I'll send you the recording. So because you registered, you'll get all that today. So you should be able to, just tap into some of those resources as we go forward. So thank you so much for your time. And if you have your phone out, I'd love for you if you could send me a little Google review. We're always trying to provide value and resources to people. We know the market's tight. We know there's ups and downs and roller coasters in our industry right now. And I think niching down in our market will definitely help you rise up in sales. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. And I want you to have a great weekend.